Alright, can everybody hear me? Dang it, where should this go? Is it obvious I haven't done this in a while? Hello everybody, hello John, hello Storm Shadow, Victoria, Sandwich God, Caesar. Good to have you all here, and welcome to the 10-year anniversary stream. I only had a few minor plans for this. As I may have mentioned on my post, it's been kind of a hectic time recently. I've been moving out of my old apartment and back into living with my dad. I can say that. The economy is terrible. I don't need to feel ashamed about it. So I don't really know in particular what to say just yet, so I suppose I'll just start recapping some things about the last 10 years. Well, first of all, thank you, Victoria. Well, first of all, it's just wild that I've even been at it for 10 years. Like, that's, to be doing any one thing for a consistent 10 years is pretty insane, and to have a following for that thing is pretty insane as well. So, to those of you who have been with it for a while, Storm Shadow, I know you've been around for quite a while. Sandwich God, I want to say that you're a more recent viewer. I see John is a more recent viewer, so thank you, John, and welcome. I hope I can continue producing stuff that is reasonably entertaining for you. I was hoping to get the ball rolling a little bit quicker on certain things, but those plans haven't yet materialized in terms of actually celebrating the 10th anniversary. But I suppose, since you guys are here, I can tell you what some of that is. And I will start off by saying that I have not just one specific video, but I have 3 videos planned as a way of commemorating 10 years of Film Noir. I kind of started it on a note where I think I would have a little bit of freedom to experiment, but then also there were just certain things I wanted to share. And that's part of the reason why my first review was Star Wars Episode 1, because it was a movie I knew well, even if I hadn't actually watched it in probably 6 or 7 years by the time I was getting ready to start the channel. So, and since then, I had kind of discovered prequel hate culture, and been like, what? Why do people think these movies are bad? I love Star Wars, but you get older, you start learning about movies better, and you learn about how they're made and why they work. And I started to go, hey, you know what? Maybe there is something to that. Doesn't change the fact that I like these movies, or that I necessarily agree with every criticism against them. But, uh-oh. I just got something that says no data in the control room, but I suppose that doesn't really matter too much because until further notice, it seems like you guys are doing just fine. So in that case, I will just keep going. Anyway. I got way off track from what I was originally trying to say, which is, I started this show reviewing Star Wars, and I'm going to celebrate 10 years reviewing Star Wars. I plan to tackle the Star Wars sequel trilogy. You heard it here first. Because, I mean, who else would you hear it from? Thank you, Tristan, and thank you for joining the stream. So anyway, I've taken notes for all 3 sequel trilogy movies. I probably need to watch Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker maybe once or twice more. But I'm hoping to film and release all the videos kind of in a quick succession sort of manner. Because if it's going to be a 10-year anniversary, I want the videos to come out close together. Now, if I'm ever to encounter copyright issues, that's an entirely separate thing. With films like Star Wars, I don't usually have that sort of a problem. Which is good. So I won't have to be like, yay, happy 10th anniversary, and then be like, I regret to inform you that you will not be seeing these videos. So I hope it doesn't come to that. Apart from that, I can tell you guys some other plans I've got for this year. Like, well, first of all, to address the very first comment from John. Inspector Gadget 1999. Alright, so that first comment from John was right at the beginning of the stream. Would I consider reviewing Scream 1996? Going to assume that's the original one, because then that would be at the time. My first exposure to Scream, like proper, was Scary Movie, the first Scary Movie. And suffice it to say, well, let me just be plain about it. Not usually a horror movie fan. That doesn't mean I would never review a horror movie. It would just be one that I would have to feel like talking about. And that's something I'll round back to later on in the stream, because I have something in particular I might want to discuss with you guys and get your initial feedback on. Alright, would I review Inspector Gadget? That's a film I don't have too much attachment to that movie, but I also haven't seen it in long enough and am disconnected enough that if I were to jump into it, maybe it would be fun to do. Matthew Lillard. He is in Scream, isn't he? You know, having never seen it myself, I forget that sometimes, but wow. How about that? Anyways, John, to answer your other question, would I be willing to hear suggestions? I'm always willing to hear suggestions, but I find that in recent years, a lot of my reviewing decisions tend to just be me thinking about what it is I want to talk about. And that doesn't always fall in line with some of the requests I get. A big part of this job is... job. Because I do make ad revenue. It is not a replacement for a day job income. So I won't call this a job, but there is work involved, obviously. Anyway, doing this is best when I'm having fun with it and feeling passionate about it. And if I'm not passionate about the material, then sometimes just the ability to produce a video doesn't always come as easily. So, and then sometimes it's hard just because life likes to be difficult sometimes. I think something... screw it. You guys are in the live stream. You get the exclusive information first. That's how these things work. Thank you, Mr. Blue, and thank you for popping into the stream. Always a pleasure. And a late, belated welcome to Captain Hades as well. I was certainly about to say something, but I forgot what it was. I don't even remember the... Thank you. I love this shirt as well. Right, I was about to tell you guys my plans for later this year. I am hoping to make videos about Puss in Boots and James Cameron's Avatar. Obviously, partially because these are two movies that are getting sequels this year. And and you know, I say gotta get them clicks, but really it's going to be partially an extension of me just being like, hey, I plan to go see these movies, so I'm going to be revisiting the other ones anyway, so maybe consider making a video about them, and that is what I plan to do. James Cameron is awesome. I have certainly seen instances of that where that was true. In fact, I will say this, like, when Avatar first came out, I really liked that movie, like, a lot. It was, as a lot of people say, it was a moment in pop culture where it was like this big explosion of just everyone saying what a phenomenon it was and going to see it 2 or 3 times, 3D technology, all that. And then it just kind of died down for a really long time. And then over the years, talking about Avatar just became kind of a joke. We talked about how it was Pocahontas with blue aliens or offshoots of other stuff. "12 years old. Oh God, man. I was... I was 16, so I guess we're not necessarily that far apart. Thank you. You don't make me feel too old. Welcome to the stream, Squall. Did I know that James Cameron's inspiration for the Terminator was when he had food poisoning and dreamt that he was being chased by a killer robot? That's a heck of a thing. Inspiration can come from very random places. But as for the rest of Terminator, Skynet and time travel and all that, I have to wonder where the rest of that came from. Yeah, Avatar. Yeah, Fern Gully is kind of a good comparison for what kind of film Avatar is, but difference being Avatar has big flying monsters and also guns and mechs. All that good stuff. I think the discourse around Avatar got the craziest when James Cameron decided to announce that he was making 2 sequels. No, 3 sequels. No, 4 sequels. And we're just like, whoa, dude. Like, do you really think that's sustainable? Have I seen the 1998 Rudolph? No, I have not. I have seen the Rankin Bass Rudolph. And that's basically it. I do not presently plan to see the Bob's Burgers movie, and the main reason for that is I have yet to actually watch Bob's Burgers. Do you know off the top of your head whether it's available to stream on, say, Netflix? Or actually, I imagine it would be on Hulu, wouldn't it? And I do not have Hulu. Rewinding just a little bit to Tristan, my favorite review is Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. That was a pretty fun movie to go back to. And it is one of my most popular, so that's fair. Obviously, I look back at a number of my old videos and kind of cringe at them. There have been times I once actually dabbled with the idea of doing a revisit of Phantom Menace, not necessarily going over the entire movie again, but just because that was my very first review. There are a couple things I wanted to address that didn't necessarily. Let me put it this way. Yes, I can acknowledge that the prequel trilogy's films are flawed. And even though I do give it even though I give it compliments throughout the review, and then I also say at the end, it's like, yeah, I can kind of see why people might criticize this movie, but you know what? It's not all bad. I feel like my actual feelings on the film, and obviously I'm saying this 10 years after the fact, maybe at the time I was just feeling really like, okay, I'm gonna give Phantom Menace a fair assessment, and that includes criticizing it. But in this case, it's kind of like, I like Phantom Menace. I agree that sometimes in the prequels the acting is a little wooden, the dialogue is a little weird, but I think the world of it felt really rich and came alive in a way that, spoiler alert, didn't quite do in the sequel trilogy, I don't think. But you'll hear more of that later. Stormella, similar to a Rothbard, Clavius, and Zelda. Parallel, similarity. I don't know what I'm going to call that, but that could be interesting just because that's... Well, for starters, I haven't been able to post a Swan Princess video in a while. And, yeah, again, exclusive information since you are in the stream. here's what's up. Ashley has a busy as heck work schedule. Honestly, I haven't actually had a chance to hang out with her since last June because she's either really busy or probably gets home from work and is dead tired. I don't know too much about her specific situation. We don't talk extremely often. But that is the main reason why you guys haven't seen Swan Princess 9 yet. And even though I'm saying, Ashley, that's obviously my responsibility. I'm the producer of the show. I've got to be the one to try and make things happen. Granted, I can't help it when my friends are unavailable. I also feel, though, that I really don't think I could do Swan Princess without Ashley. Reviewing those has been a key part of the show's history, and particularly with her. Reviewing a series with a particular filming partner, that's always been my thing. Although, these days, obviously, 90% of my work is done solo. So until such a time as I can nab a free spot in Ashley's schedule somewhere and we can finally deliver that video to you, I will try to find other fun things to talk about. When are we going to get Detective Reviews, the movie? I don't think you will. Have I ever thought about doing that? Yes. Do I think I could realistically make it happen? Not at this juncture. The closest I would have been able to have the resources to make something like that happen was 2014, when I made A Case in Time, which is the Star Wars-esque mini-movie that I made for my show's second anniversary, and as a lead-up to my Revenge of the Sith review, as well as just my first major experience in actually doing a little bit of a storyline within the show. Whereas most other things are just comedic hijinks that happen because, we're pals and we give each other crap. If I were ever to do something even slightly resembling Detective Reviews the movie, it would probably be something that would be the end of Detective Reviews or Film Noir as a whole. That would probably be my swan song. The Swan Princess series went downhill from the fourth film, and the hill got steeper and steeper with every new CGI film, until eventually the hill was at a 90-degree angle, and the series came crashing down with the 10th film. Fun fact, I still haven't watched the 10th film, and nobody... If any of you have, well, first of all, I'm sorry if you have. Second, don't tell me. I want it to be a surprise. But let's roll back to the subject of Detective Reviews real quick, because that's actually been a central point of thinking in my brain for a while. I have, at times, pondered the idea of... Now, obviously, I've experimented with different types of videos in the past. I have my detective reviews. I had my casual reviews for a while. Then in 2018, I just kind of decided these aren't getting the views, and I think my efforts would be better spent on just making more longer videos. And I've also done, what could have been, in which I analyzed deleted scenes, which, again, I think it's a pretty fun thing to do. I think it's fun to take a look at stuff that wasn't in the movie and think about, but what if it was? And what would the impact be? Like, in fact, that's still a format of video that I may end up doing again. But here's what I've been thinking about in terms of detective reviews. From the offset, it's been more or less heavily inspired by the nostalgia critic-ish format in which I kind of just go through a movie, not every solitary second, but, covering the entire film in general. And then talking about the plot holes. The thing is, and I don't know if it's just the choices of movies that I've been dealing with in recent years, but plot holes feel a lot harder to find than they used to. At least the variety that I instinctively kind of look for when I'm watching a movie. So here's where my brain is at. I don't necessarily want to just echo Nostalgia Critic for my entire reviewing career. So I have given the thought to not necessarily canceling detective reviews. There are definitely some movies that would fit that format well. But I definitely feel like I want to try and make different kinds of videos. Ones that rather than following a strict format and not really words, man. They are tricky. I think the more important thing I want to say about that development, so long Squall, is that the kind of videos I would like to make would be the ones where I can talk about a movie in the context of just really conveying a good impression of my experience with that film. Or why it's important to me, or why I think people should watch it, or whichever quality of importance that I think is worth sharing from my perspective about the movie or show in question. And I feel like sticking with detective reviews, the format, the structure, I don't think that lends itself to using my voice when I'm reviewing something in the way I've just described. So that is something you guys... Oh, full disclosure, the sequel trilogy reviews, those will be detective reviews. Do I mean a video essay? Yeah, pretty much. Or just a review that is not structured in quite the same way as what I'm doing right now. And that's the scary part, is I don't necessarily know what these things are going to look like until I actually get myself together to make one of them. With any luck, maybe Avatar or Puss in Boots, like maybe when we hit that season this year, maybe that can be the time where I try to stretch my writing chops a little bit and try to deliver something a little different. The other thing that may happen as a result of that is, yes, you may see an odd detective review every now and then, but you may also... When I started the show, I think I had a really good idea of what sort of reviewer I wanted to be. Again, I felt very inspired by Nostalgia Critic when I was starting out, so that's kind of the example that I was following. But in doing so, I feel like I had several ideas for like different formats I could do for types of videos, and I think it worked a little. I think it worked okay for a while. In the early years when I was like really doing them, but then just like one by one, some of the sub series of videos that I was doing and had like a particular format for just kind of started to die out over time. First the journals, the vlogs, eventually casual reviews, which were videos I was making almost weekly at the time. And now all I've made for the past few years has been detective reviews, and I've mentioned this before on my update videos, how I've gotten in a funk mental health wise, and that's still stuff that I'm trying to work through. And I think some of those thoughts just start to, dang it, I thought this was supposed to be a celebration. Chin up, Steve. UK Historian, welcome. Yes, I did say my next review. As of yet, my plan for I intend to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Film Noir by reviewing the entire sequel trilogy. Star Wars sequel trilogy, if that wasn't evident by just saying sequel trilogy. But to be fair, what other sequel trilogy is there? Do I want to do other types of videos? Yes, Victoria, I do. In fact, I have a document, a to-do list of sorts, that I can read from and share with you guys. In fact, maybe I will play around in the stream to see if I can just put that document up on the screen. Obviously not that way. Thoughts on Obi-Wan and favorite Star Wars character? I'm going to assume you mean the Obi-Wan series that just premiered. And I can tell you that I like it. Obi-Wan is probably one of my favorite... prequel era Obi-Wan is one of my favorite characters to follow. And he's just got this very natural charisma about him. Like... much credit to Ewan McGregor for making Obi-Wan one of the most compelling parts of the prequel trilogy. He took some of the dialogue that George Lucas said, and granted, we've all turned it into memes, because that is what humans do with pop culture, is everything becomes memes. But he also made them like, he said them in a way that gave them weight. Like, you can give an actor bad dialogue, but if they are a good actor, they just might be able to turn it into something. And that takes some talent, and I give Ewan McGregor much credit for that. I will just say offhand that my favorite Star Wars film is Revenge of the Sith. Objectively speaking, I would say the best one is probably Episode 4. I feel like that's the one it's very consistent, always a delight to watch. And like, a lot of people say Empire, and yeah, Empire is great. But for me, I think the best will always be, well, I can't say always. I haven't seen every other film. As for my favorite character, well, that's difficult because expanded production of Star Wars media has made that question harder and harder by the year. But Obi-Wan is definitely one of my favorites. I also do really like Anakin when they can get him... I will say when they can give him better writing than what the prequel trilogy films had. Do I hope Star Wars is in Kingdom Hearts? I'm gonna say... no. Tetsuya Nomura has too much insanity going on in that brain of his with what he's already doing with Kingdom Hearts. I think throwing Star Wars into the mix would just be a little bit too much insanity. I also think that Kingdom Hearts it's like primarily a Disney space. And I would say the exception to that rule would be just expanding into Pixar, which is still very much Disney. So I think they should I think they should stick to that as far as Kingdom Hearts goes. But I think I would accept a Star Wars character as a secret boss. Like, if you got to secret boss fight like Darth Vader or Darth Maul, or just pulling this from the depths of non-canon Star Killer from The Force Unleashed, that would be interesting. I mean, we've already got... It's not too far off, considering we already got Xemnas, who wields what are essentially lightsabers that he can conjure out of nothing. Yes, like Darth Vader. Let me say something about Padme, Victoria. I love the way they wrote her in the Clone Wars. But that's a TV show, and while it is a great TV show and should not be discounted because of that, part of me always feels like it would just hit so much differently if we wrote something more meaty for Natalie Portman to do as Padme. I think she was, though as I rewind in my brain a little bit, I thought she was pretty awesome in episode 2. She was initially fighting for a bill, although the scenes about her doing that were left on the cutting room floor. But we got to see that side of her in the Clone Wars, which was great. But I think if we gave something like the arc in which, I guess I should say the episode in which Padme was fighting for resources to maintain Coruscant and saying, like, we're putting so much effort into this war that we are forgetting to take care of where we live. And she even, like, she had a housekeeper or something that she talked to and said, like, how are things going at home? And then she took that story to the Senate and swayed everybody. And then Palpatine kind of stood in his office like, isn't it something that even for someone who holds all the power in the galaxy, the voice of one senator can have such an influence? And, you know, he was all smiley about it, but as the scene wore on, you could tell he was just like, this girl is grinding my gears. And, you know, all right, hopefully I'm back now. Am I back? Is it working? I'm going to just keep saying random filler things that will... until somebody responds and says yes. Oh, okay. I guess we're good. So, back to some questions. What is my favorite Swan Princess review? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 4 was Christmas. 5. 6 was Princess Tomorrow, Pirate Today. They ended up on the island with the freaking cookout. And then, of course, 8, the mystery. I am gonna say my... That's tough. I'll do process of elimination. Not number 1. That was us. That was our first attempt, and we still needed refinement. I respect its place in my history, but not my absolute favorite. Especially because if I were to try to do another duet with Ashley on Far Longer Than Forever, I would be a certain percentage better than I was that first episode, or frankly any of the other episodes in which we do that. I think in terms of just the stuff in which I had the most fun with the jokes and the other things, I am really fond of Christmas, Swan Princess Christmas, for the intro, because just like, no, let's escape Swan Princess Christmas, and then we couldn't, like, that was just a really fun intro to plot and shoot and have an excuse to do the Noel song from Animaniacs. That was fun. That was really fun to do. In terms of what... It was really a trip, though, to do Swan Princess 8. Because that was a point where I'm like, this is the closest in a really long time that a Swan Princess film has gotten close to being, like, kind of good. And that was wild. Like, just... The fact that there were certain parts about the movie that I legitimately enjoyed, that I was legitimately... And you might say, it's like, well, Swan Princess 8, your standards were so low for so long that even competence can masquerade itself as proficiency. I think those two words are synonyms. It's like, just because it's competent doesn't mean it's good. But like, that's my experience with the film. So I would say, in terms of what I'm... that's tricky. I would say favorite to make, Christmas. I don't know if I can give a proper answer to that question, so I'm gonna move on. What was my favorite movie review? Well, now that is even harder to answer. So instead, I'm going to pull up a playlist of, like, basically just all the detective reviews, and then I will go based on season, which is basically between May and the following May. And I will go and I will say which is my favorite review for each year. My first year, numbers 1 through 9, we've got Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace, Shrek, Spy Kids, Robots, Sky High, Swan Princess, Sandlot 2, The Ant Bully, and Aragon. Now this was a good year because I got pretty much all of my friends who were willing to help me out on the show involved in what I was doing, and that was really enjoyable to do. A few others came along, but I laugh at Phantom Menace because I was so conscious of continuity that I wrote a joke about our hair lengths changing, which, that's what you do. You try to cover up the obvious continuity error by just going like, ah ha ha, continuity. But just the production quality of that episode and as I mentioned much earlier, for those of you who have only just recently joined us, doesn't express my very honest feelings about Phantom Menace as much as I would like it to. One moment. I'm going to adjust this microphone a little bit. There. Oh. Well, there was a peak in the red there just now, but I digress. Maybe this will just be that much slightly more easy on the ears. Alright, so favorite review from the early era. Not Robots, because, well, there were a lot of reviews in the early days where it's I have fond memories about the movies themselves, and I feel like in some cases I was just looking for excuses to be mean. I'm going to say The Ant Bully, because I think that's one point where I did, not only was I able to just make the video shorter, but I just remember the experience of watching that movie for the first time since 2006 when I saw it in the theater. And then watching it with Tyler and seeing his reactions to how, wild and weird it was. The note-taking process for that, the movie isn't quite an hour and a half, I don't think, but we spent 3 hours just taking the notes on it. And just laughing or yelling at it or whatever, and that was really fun. And I also think it turned out pretty well as a video, although that does express one of the things I've learned in producing film noir, and that is, if you're going to suddenly make a presentation in one of your videos about how things are going to be different, maybe actually have an active plan for how you're going to make it different, because basically in that video I just kind of started being meaner to Tyler because I'm I think I should be more like an actual hard-boiled noir detective. But yeah, people who have been with the show long enough know how that went. I kind of shifted that trajectory into just embracing my own personal drier sense of humor, I think. There are times when I'm not like that, though. Sometimes I wonder about the detective persona at all. I'm not abandoning it, by the way. I just have a way of thinking, what am I doing? Alright, Season 2. Attack of the Clones. Swan Princess 2. Bionicle Mask of Light. iRobot. Casper, A Spirited Beginning. Spy Kids 2, which ain't on YouTube. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. The Sandlot 3, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dark Knight Rises, and then I guess Revenge of the Sith should also count as... I feel like Revenge of the Sith should count as the end of season 2, because that was when because that was the point in my show's history in which Blip TV was no longer a viable option. Oh, thank you, Victoria. I'm very proud of my teammates too. I just wish they hadn't all moved. Oh. You know what? Like this season 2, like 2013, 2014, like that was definitely a point where I really started to get into the rhythm of what I was doing. So that's tricky to pick one. And for those of you who haven't before, I would highly recommend going back to some of those older videos. Not necessarily the videos themselves, because, I mean, I can't stop you if you really want to watch them, but what I want you to go back to is, like, there are these videos, and then they'll come with a blooper reel. And I would love it if you guys gave some of those a watch, because a big thing about the show, right from the very beginning, is that that's a bit of inspiration from, like, the Channel Awesome people that I have never abandoned and will never abandon, is the idea that the production process itself and just the experience of making the video is fun, and I want that evident in the bloopers. Now, since I film 90% of my content by myself now, not as many bloopers happen because I don't burst into laughter when I'm alone and doing this kind of stuff. I just go like, dang it, okay, gotta focus. Now I'm gonna say the line correctly this time. You know, that sort of thing. I'm just business. But doing it with a person, like, doing stuff with people always makes it more fun. And that's, again, why I wish my teammates hadn't moved away. Why would they do that? Because they have lives. And they are allowed to have lives. They're allowed to go off and achieve their own dreams and ambitions. But they'll never... Well, I was about to say they'll never have a YouTube channel with 2,700 subscribers, and it's true. They don't. Tyler's channel actually has a lot more. And kudos to him for it. I realize I just toasted the mic instead of the camera. Favorite review from season 2? I am gonna have to go with Swan Princess 2. The jokes in that one were so much fun. I got to film a lot of dynamic stuff, including the one of 2 sequences in the show's history where I've actually, like, physically accosted a movie, even if it wasn't the movie being reviewed in that particular video at the time. I physically accosted Sandlot 2, not Swan Princess 2. But, you know, that was a long time coming. So I'm going to go with Swan Princess 2. Best, good jokes, really fun to film. I think I was torn between that and Revenge of the Sith, because that was fun. Now for the next season in the new era. In which I made the jump from Blip TV to putting all my content on YouTube. I am still very, very proud of, well, quite a few of the videos that I've made, but let's... Now this one is just really hard to figure out because there were so many good things in here. There was Cinderella 3, which was just a really interesting film to look at. There's The Hitchhiker, which I did for a school project because I needed something public domain. So that was just an interesting way of like having to limit myself creatively by not being able to make references and use other clips and such. An experiment that I think worked out pretty okay. Rango, a film that I had a lot of fun reviewing just because when it first came out, this was something that Tim and I disagreed on. Hello, Paul Rollo. Welcome to the stream. Whereas, like, I had seen the movie and I was like, guys, this is so good. You gotta go see it. And then Tim saw it and he's like, I didn't really like that movie. So, of course, I made him fight me on it on camera. But from that season, and by season, I'm going to have to go with year at this point. So in this case, the year was 2015. I gotta give it to Detective Reviews number 24, Spy Kids 3, Game Over. Because this was where I had kind of incorporated the... I'm just going to say this. Through some strange circumstances, I found myself in a kinship with some other colleagues who have done reviews. For instance, David DeMoss from the channel And You Thought It Was Safe. He has pretty good takes on movies that I enjoy listening to, and I would recommend you guys do the same. But also Jimmy the Freak. He reviews. These days he's doing more so pro wrestling coverage because that's like his bread and butter. But he used to do game reviews as well. So he and I had kind of a, like companions / pseudo crossover kind of thing, where he reviewed the Spy Kids 3 game, I reviewed the Spy Kids 3 movie, and then they would cut back and forth between each video at relevant moments. Have I seen Top Gun Maverick? Yes, I have. I watched it on Sunday. And funny enough, I actually only watched the original Top Gun a few weeks ago. And I like them both pretty well. Perhaps maybe I don't understand, like, why do they have a massive cultural impression as they do? Like, why Top Gun of all movies? But I mean, you can't question the general public too much. They got their things. I don't always gotta understand it. Moving on to the year 2016. There were some good videos that year as well. Also kind of a short one, because that consisted of 5 reviews, and it was the year 2016. That was my final year in college. I graduated at a winter semester rather than a spring one. So basically after summer, it just kind of got to a point where I'm like, okay, I have 1 semester to go. I actually do really need to start focusing up on some of these things. But you know what? I feel like I gotta give it to the Swan Princess 5, because this was the first CG Swan Princess that was like regular and not a holiday special. And it just proved to me that Swan Princess could and would continue to go to absolutely ridiculous heights. I I do appreciate your enthusiasm, Scott. That being said, I'm not really looking to. I'm not. I'm not looking to do too many collaborations right now. Like there are people that, not that I'm ever opposed to stuff like that, like for like Drama Chick on the Death Note 1 2006 review. Like, she was a fan, but forgive me, I'm having a little hard time figuring out exactly how to steer this train of thought. Again, I'll just stick with that. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I must respectfully decline. Do I have Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and what are my favorite games? I do have Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I do not play it very frequently because I also have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is more modern and, more importantly, has Sora from Kingdom Hearts, who in the 8 months, or let's see, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, we're in May now, so I guess you could say he's been out for about 7 months or so. Point being, Sora is pretty much my main at this point. It used to be Link, now it's Sora. Favorite games. Historically speaking, Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Obsessed with those. I got very, very good at them. Won some local tournaments. And you know what? I have thrown into the chat the link to a channel where I occasionally post Guitar Hero and Rock Band videos. Be forewarned. The beginning of my recent videos, the beginning of my videos for the last couple of years includes a little intro in which I show my face. So if that would ruin the magic for some of you, be forewarned. Or maybe it won't even matter, and if I eventually do a face reveal in which I actually take these things off and be like, here's my face, maybe it will still have the same impact. Correction. If me taking my sunglasses off in the show itself and like making that a moment, if that doesn't have an impact, I haven't done my job well. I agree, Paul. Sora was a great choice for Smash. I was holding out. I had given up, essentially. And I'm not going to get into details here, but suffice to say, some recent things that happened in my life with a certain person, and I wasn't having a good time. So to have the Smash stream that morning, and then for them to reveal Sora as the final DLC fighter for Smash Brothers, that was just like a really good dose of happiness right when I really needed it. And yeah, Sora was a great choice, not just because I really like Kingdom Hearts or have really enjoyed playing as the character in the game, but I think also just because of what Kingdom Hearts represents as a very modern example of a video game crossover. Like, I feel Kingdom Hearts was one of the... I think it's okay to say Kingdom Hearts was kind of a pioneer in that era, in the sense that... Now, Smash Brothers took a bunch of characters and put them together in a fighting game. But Kingdom Hearts took the nostalgia we had for Disney and a few of the characters, and a lot of the sensibilities of what a Final Fantasy game might be like. And they made a big adventure that made you feel like you were a kid again. There is some debate over time as to whether... I suppose I should mention Kingdom Hearts is also one of my favorite game series. It's insane. Nomura has too much power. He's doing weird things with the story, and I would say more so the story than the characters. Like, part of the reason I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3 as much as I did was the way it wrapped up some of the lingering storylines from past games involving all those characters. And that was really emotionally cathartic. Like, I was really emotional at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. But as far as, like, the story itself, the mechanics of it, crazy. Kingdom Hearts is a crazy, crazy series. Let's see, what else? I've pulled up my to-do list document, and frankly, I'm not sure what I could share with you at this point that would be that tantalizing. I can tell you that I would love to do a Shrek the Third review and also a Shrek Forever After review. The problem is I never know where DreamWorks stands sometimes. Like with Megamind, they were cool. With Shrek 2, they were very much not cool. And that ticks me off to this day because that was a really popular video of mine. But for those of you who may follow me on Facebook, I have mentioned more than once Disney's Amphibia. That show has now reached its conclusion, and I encourage y'all to watch it. Definitely expect some sort of video on that from me at some point. Imagine if Nintendo Worlds... in Kingdom Hearts 4. It definitely wouldn't happen, but that actually reminds me, there was I think it was EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, a magazine. This would have been about 2008, where they announced Mushroom Kingdom Hearts. Took me longer than I am proud of to think back to that and realize, oh, that was an April Fool's issue. So for the longest time, it didn't really necessarily occur to me. I didn't focus on it that much, but I did kind of think, oh, so that's a thing that might happen at some point. And like the way they did up Mario with a Keyblade was like, it was convincing. But then you learn about the world a little more and you get a little better at spotting these sorts of things, such as the progression of life. What are some other things I would like to talk about on the show? There are certainly things that I'd like to do that aren't necessarily movies, that are more akin to video essays. There are also just some like very random, obscure movie requests that I've gotten before that I would love to make videos about, including some that I have listed down from the last time I did a stream in 2020. Oh boy. When Sora got into Smash, Sora has transcended beyond Disney and into the world of Smash. That's true. And if the random comments are to be believed, Smash paid an arm and a leg just to have a little silver keychain of Mickey Mouse's head. What did I major in? Media production. Within the field of communications, but in media production. That being said, I live in the state of Idaho. The market for that sort of job is not as rambunctious as the Wild West of California. But living there would be incredibly expensive, you see. Not that Idaho is too much better. You see, we're the state that, politics aside, people have described as just a really good place to live. So now a lot of people are coming to live here. And as a result, the cost of living is going up in a pretty noticeable way. Mostly housing. Hence why, after my most recent lease ended to where I was living before, I ended up moving back in with my dad because finances are hard. And I also got to figure out, like, if I'm going to go anywhere major, like, maybe I need some downtime to think about that. Rudolph 1998. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up again, because I think that would be a good one to write down. So thank you for that, Paul. Here's going to be a question for the audience moment. Hello, Cass. I will get to your question shortly, but question for the audience. How much does the plot hole aspect of my show really matter to you? And what I mean by asking that is, like, is that something you always look forward to at the end of the video? Because, as I've mentioned before with the detective reviews format, I feel like plot holes, in the sense that the kind that I look to discuss at the end of each video, are becoming harder to find in movies. Like, there's a lot of movies that just, it's like you can't always call it a plot hole when something is written for the sake of convenience. You know, it's like you can call that lazy writing, but you can't call that a plot hole. So that may be another thing that, let's see, there's the rub, is that my show's tagline is specifically about plot holes. I basically created a format that was like Nostalgia Critic, but I also talk about the plot holes specifically. If there's one thing I would ask my audience to understand about the future of the show right now, is that I want to do something different, but I don't know what it looks like yet. Now, Cass, what's your favorite type of animation? Do you mean that in the sense of 2D or 3D? Are you looking for, like, a particular show to point to? I suppose I could just start rambling some of the things about animation that I do like. I think I do really enjoy watching anime, particularly anime feature films, because I think those are the films that are just, like, really given a budget to create images that are very astonishing to the human eye. I don't know if we're a good sample size for that question. You are not wrong. That is a very good scientific thing to point out about that. Into the Spider-Verse. The animation in that movie felt like people have said live action movies are comic books come to life. I would describe Into the Spider-Verse's animation style as comic books coming alive. These characters still feel drawn in a very stylized fashion, but it is 3D animation. And frankly, I cite Into the Spider-Verse as the film that basically cracked the code of what's the perfect medium between these two. Another show that I think does a really good job at marrying 2D and 3D animation is the Rooster Teeth show Ruby. And what I mean by that is that the character designs from the offset are unique, and you generally are able to very easily tell which character is which. They're very distinct. But like the fact that the characters are in 3D is just also aesthetically pleasing. I don't know if there's a better way I can explain that, so I will move on. I have not seen the Disney Plus trailer for Pinocchio. Shall I do a live reaction? And before I actually get to watching the trailer, let me just say this. I think it is just a little bit shifty that Disney decides to put out their Pinocchio remake the same year that Guillermo del Toro's got his different... I actually haven't seen as much about the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio as I thought, but I know it looks creepy. I have faith in Guillermo del Toro as a filmmaker, so I'm interested in checking it out. So yeah, Disney kind of like coming in and trying to steal some of the thunder. But then again, pop culture moves so fast these days. Like Disney plus Pinocchio would happen, and then it would be done. And people will probably go through half a dozen other things before they hit Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. With that said, let's take a look at the Disney Plus Pinocchio. I hope... I'm going to turn down the gain on the mic a little bit. So hopefully it's not too loud. Robert Zemeckis. Huh.
star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
When you wish upon a star,
Oh no, not Jimmy. Oh, they. September 8th.
Terrence, streaming on Disney Plus.
Okay. Ewan McGregor is in Del Toro's version? What? Okay. Well, now I... Ewan McGregor, why must you have my heart so... Anyway. So, I like that they kept the colorful bits of Jiminy's character design. I think it was kind of smart of them not to show... Actually, I don't know how to feel about the fact that they barely showed any Pinocchio. I do appreciate that in the advertising sense of not giving away too much too fast. But it is very much a teaser, so it doesn't give me as much of an impression on what the movie as a whole is going to be like. Here's a fun question to ask, though. How do you guys reckon that they're going to handle the really creepy part of Pinocchio? Because if they somehow still work in the whole go into the amusement park where the boys are encouraged to just be rambunctious and rude and just absolutely the worst. Well, I would bet that they aren't going to try and re-emulate the Ringmaster and just how absolutely traumatizing a presence that guy is. Oh boy. Like, that's... Because a lot of those boys that got turned into a donkey in the original animated movie, it's like Pinocchio just moved on. He didn't rescue them or anything. I mean, not like he had the means to fight back against the one guy, but just like those boys are gone. They were kidnapped. They were turned into donkeys. Oh. That is the Blue Fairy showing up. That is one I have not heard before. When I was little, the thing that scared me in a Disney movie was the Hydra in Hercules. Now it's one of my favorite things. Because like it's 2D animated, but also at certain times it's rendered in 3D and has like just enough of an uncanny valley effect to... maybe that's the wrong word. I feel like it's just 3D enough to give off the effect that it's something different, something sinister, that sort of a thing. And visually it was cool, and also just it was a really cool monster in Greek mythology, and that was my first exposure to it. Obviously, like, what year did Hercules come out? That was 94, wasn't it? '97. So I would have been about 4 at the time. It was before the Hays Code that... yes, the Hays Code. That is something I know I studied at some point in my media production degree studies, but it's been a while since I've really thought about it. The Wishing Star plus the strings music. Maybe I would have to watch the scene again, but you can't really account for when you're young, what's gonna get you upset or weirded out. This is the fun, perhaps, of being young, is that everything is just so new and extreme to you and all that you're experiencing. That's probably why nostalgia as a concept is just so intense, is the things that you grow to love when you're a kid, you develop the love for that thing so intensely. So to be reminded of that in your adulthood is a powerful thing. Entirely overexploited in the modern movie-making landscape? Absolutely. But it's a powerful influence. Okay. Have I seen the trailer for a new Puss in Boots? Yes. And yeah, I did notice that. I'm like, this doesn't look like they just picked up where they left off from when they made the first one back in 2011. This looks like DreamWorks has had some time to sit with itself and think. And I think that's evident in some of the other movies they've produced in recent years, like The Bad Guys this year. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but I think visually speaking, that movie looks pretty good in terms of character design. There was certainly a time where DreamWorks had its own kind of Disney effect, where it felt like a lot of the characters in its movies were designed with the same sort of general thesis in mind. But then in other cases they do really well. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Paul. That it ultimately worked out for you. It occurs to me, a lot of DreamWorks movies seem to fly by in my brain, and I don't always remember to appreciate the individual ones. And there's quite a number of them I haven't seen. I didn't keep up with the Madagascar franchise. I never fully watched Over the Hedge. I haven't seen Spirit since I was a kid. Gotta love How to Train Your Dragon. Rise of the Guardians. That's one I know that someone has asked me to talk about before. I watched Home, and I do remember at the times there were moments in that film that made me feel things, but didn't care much for the main character. See what I mean? I'm going down this list. I'm like, Trolls, Boss Baby. Oh, DreamWorks made Captain Underpants. those are the things you forget about sometimes because they leave such a different impression. I suppose it's like Disney. For every new random live action sitcom that I am not the children of the modern age. These shows are not made for me. And yet I still find a way to just have that slightest bit of resentment towards them. But suffice to say, for every one of those, we got something like the Owl House or an Amphibia. You know? No one studio is going to always make things of, like, sublime quality. Some films are hit and miss, yes, certainly. And I think that's definitely informed some of my film viewing habits over the years. Like, particularly when I was just starting out and going to college for this sort of thing. Particularly as I progressed, it became kind of a badge of honor from myself to myself, just to be like a student of film, as it were. Over the years, though, that did kind of become less of a priority, and I started focusing a lot more attention on what do I like, what gets me excited, what are the things about a movie or show that make me excited to watch it. I think for a while, I had it in my head that, like, what if I just let something pass me by and never get to it, and then it turns out that could be this thing that you would love. But what actually ends up happening is a lot of times you just watch something, you have that experience, and then you're fairly content with never watching it again. Even if you liked it, you're just like, cool. Okay, I'm gonna move on to this next thing now. So a lot of the changes over the years have involved focusing on the kind of stuff that stick with me after I've watched it, or have a really strong immediate impact on me. So even though I still have endless lists of things that I totally should watch, never gonna get to all of them. Which is why you gotta focus on the ones that... And this is part of why marketing is so important when it comes to films and TV shows. It's like how the show presents itself for its potential audience. Like, that can be the difference between whether or not someone wants to watch something. So, you know, granted, a lot of mine are friends telling me, oh, you gotta watch this, dude. And me just going, okay, someday I probably will. Might take me a couple years, but I'll get there. Tom Baker as the coachman in Pinocchio. As a hypothetical? Huh. I think I would agree with your statement saying he's too old in the sense of, like, I don't necessarily think he'd have that sense of movement anymore. He's still got a heck of a voice, though, which is why he still occasionally records audio adventures as the Fourth Doctor, which is... I don't personally listen to radio plays as a habit, but I just think it's really cool that he does that. I will repeat this bit of information because, Hannah, I assume you joined this stream kind of recently. Either that or you've been here forever and you just have been quiet. But I'm bringing this up because on my to-do list document, I have it noted that you quite some time ago requested that I review Star Wars The Force Awakens. Well, this year you're getting... Address the camera, Steve. You are getting your wish. I am reviewing not just Star Wars The Force Awakens, I am reviewing the entire sequel trilogy. Luke Evans. That's not the guy who played Gaston in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, is it? No, that's not him. Luke Evans. Okay, this guy looks somewhat familiar. Oh, he was in the Three Musketeers reboot. He was in The Raven. He was in the Clash of the Titans remake. What else we got? He was Bard in... Oh, wow. I knew this guy's face was very familiar. Oh, he was Gaston. I was right. Good job, me. All right, well, I think I have kind of gotten to a point where I'm starting to level out in terms of what I can deliver right now. So I'm going to start wrapping this thing up, and I'm just going to recap to you guys. Recap is not the right word. I'm going to reiterate to you guys Star Wars sequel trilogy reviews coming this year. Probably Puss in Boots from 2011 and probably James Cameron's Avatar coming later this year. Probably around the time that their respective sequels are being released. And just a general, like, it's a heck of a thing to do this sort of thing for 10 years. So, and I hope I can do it a little bit more consistently than I have been over time. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your patience as I tinker my way through the process of delivering new projects. And I don't really know what else to say in that regard off the top of my head. Just I appreciate your presence and stay tuned because hopefully there's good stuff coming your way. So thanks for hanging out with me the last couple hours and take it easy.